Hi, and welcome to the National Coming Out Day commemoration event. I am your host, Dr. Karen Wisely. I am with the History Department at TCC campus, Northeast Campus. Welcome. We will have some other people joining us, um, but I wanted to start out first by getting you familiar with what National Coming Out Day is. If you have questions, I need you to email any questions that you have to chloe.northrup@tccd.edu, and she will then um, bring those questions to myself and other panel members, and we will answer them at the end. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about the history of National Coming Out Day, because you probably are already somewhat familiar with what the term coming out means. It stems from the bigger term, the phrase coming out of the closet, and it means basically that you are admitting to yourself and sometimes to others that you are LGBTQ plus. And it is an important step in the lives of most LGBTQ plus people. Um, and it is a process that is continuing. You don't just come out one time, you come out many, many times. Um, so, why is it necessary and where did it come from? Well, I have a little timeline here, and I want to go through some of these things. In 1969, there's Stonewall, and that is usually considered to be the beginnings of the gay liberation movement. It is not the beginnings of the gay movement, but that is a story for another day. Um, it is when people became more outwardly and openly willing to admit to themselves and others that they were gay. In 1978, we have Harvey Milk, who was elected to be the first openly gay member of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, which he was an important icon for the LGBTQ plus community. He served on there. He worked to fight against a proposition called the Briggs Initiative that was to um, basically to would have allowed all public school teachers who were gay or who supported gay rights to be fired from their jobs in the state of California. And he fought against that. And then after the election in November, where the Briggs Initiative was defeated, then he was assassinated. He was a proponent of coming out and what it meant to the community. So in 1979, there was a national march on Washington for lesbian and gay rights that sort of honored him, but it was small, and it was small because the movement was not yet a national movement, and it wouldn't become a national movement until really the AIDS crisis hit. And from 1979 through the 1990s, and even still through today, the AIDS crisis hit. But in this, from 79 through the 1990s until the medications made it so it wasn't an immediate death sentence, it hit the LGBTQ plus community most hard. And it unified people in a way that nothing else has been able to do. In 1987, there was a second national march. And at that national march, they they showed you, they showed the AIDS memorial quilt for the first time, and there were upwards of some estimates say up to 500,000 people who attended that. And then the next year in '88, then they established National Coming Out Day. Now, just go over these a little bit more in depth, because I have pictures for everything, doggone it, and you should see pictures, I think. So, first of all, Stonewall in '69, June 28, '69, it started as a routine police raid of a gay bar, the Stonewall Inn in New York City, and it happened a lot, but on this particular night, for whatever reason, and there are as many different theories on that as there are people alive, the people fought back, and it turned into 4 days of rioting, and it changed the movement. Like I said, people were more openly, outwardly willing to identify themselves as being gay. Then Harvey Milk, and this is a quote that I wanted to share with you about Harvey Milk. This is something that he said after the Briggs Initiative was defeated. The Briggs Initiative again said that any person who was a public school teacher in California who was gay or who supported gay rights would be fired if the Briggs Initiative had passed. And so it was important that it didn't pass. And Milk had a theory that if people knew all of the gay people that were around them in every day, that they would think about it differently. And it's a theory that has been proven with studies over time, that if people know even one single openly LGBTQ person, they are more likely to be supportive of equal rights for LGBTQ plus people. So here's what he said. We must destroy the myths once and for all. We must continue to speak out, and most importantly, every gay person must come out. As difficult as it is, you must tell your immediate family, you must tell your relatives, you must tell your friends, if they indeed are your friends. You must tell your neighbors, you must tell the people you work with, you must tell the people in the stores you shop in. And once they realize that we are indeed their children and that we are indeed everywhere, every myth, every lie, every innuendo will be destroyed once and for all. And once you do, you will feel so much better. The Briggs Initiative was defeated, but unfortunately, as I said, just weeks later, Harvey Milk was assassinated. He had been working on the 1979 march, and so it went on. There was a march in 1979, and it was a little disappointing to people because only about 125 is the largest estimate I could find. Somewhere between 50,000 people and 125,000 people marched on Washington in 1979. The movement hadn't really nationalized. There were a lot of pockets of local and state and city organizations, but it wasn't one fully united national movement yet. And like I said, what would change then was AIDS, essentially. All right. So the second national march on Washington for lesbian and gay rights in 1987 was huge. Estimates are up 500,000 people showed up, and I don't care who you are, that is a lot of people. It kind of makes me anxious just to think about it. The first showing of the AIDS memorial quilt was there, and it allowed people from the community to mourn together and to band together and to to make plans, and part of their plans was a National Coming Out Day. So in 1988, they decided, leaders decided, you have Rob Eichberg and Jean O'Leary, who first proposed the idea. Eichberg would die of AIDS complications in '95. He was a psychologist and founder of a personal growth workshop called The Experience. O'Leary was an out lesbian political leader and longtime activist from New York. So they decided that they would create a holiday that would celebrate queer identities in order to decrease stigma and homophobia. And, going off of what Melk said and what these studies that we have today, even, that even knowing one gay person is likely to make people more likely to support equality under the law. And our stories can be powerful to each other because it is about it's about visibility. And you can see I went through and I created this slide because there's a lot of LGBTQ plus visibility right now that is increasing constantly. There is, it is a reality that, even if, forget about non-LGBTQ people seeing more and more representation in media and the like. If you see, if LGBTQ people do see people like them in the media, they are more likely to, be less inclined to have suicides and things like that. So it is important, and they are in all walks of life here. So, up in the corner here, there's trans activist Janet Mock. This woman next to her is United States Senator Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin. Next to her is Laverne Cox. You may know her from Orange is the New Black. RuPaul's Drag Race is apparently tremendously popular. There is a new show on Netflix called Ratched, which kind of investigates what it was like before homosexuality was removed from the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, in 1973, when it was considered to be a mental disorder. And you would have gay people who were put in mental homes and given treatments like electroshock therapy and others that would harm them. There is, of course, the most famous lesbian on planet Earth is Ellen DeGeneres, and right behind them is the Queer Eye guys, and Janelle Monáe has come out as queer. And then you have in the news business Anderson Cooper and Rachel Maddow, among others. Of course, Will and Grace is sometimes given a lot of credit for opening people's eyes to being the first sitcom on a major network that featured actual gay men. So it is very important. And just think, if you have Netflix and you haven't seen the documentary called Disclosure on Netflix, then you are missing out, friends, because that is an excellent, excellent documentary. I highly, highly recommend it to anybody who wants to know more about this stuff. All right. So, all right, then let's open this up to my fellow presenters. So, I will share the screen here with two pretty big icons in DFW activism. First of all, there is Dr. Nino Testa. He is from Texas Christian University. Have his bio here. He's the Associate Director of Women and Gender Studies at Texas Christian University in Fort Worth. Like me, Nino is a Midwesterner. He is from Ohio, but spent a great deal of time on the East Coast as well. He went to graduate school at Tufts University in Medford, Massachusetts, and later he worked there as the director of the school's LGBT Center. He'll be telling us a bit about his experience there. Dr. Testa has been in the Metroplex since 2017 and is active in the community here, and we are very lucky to have him. Also, on the telephone, I believe, is Patty Fink. Patty Fink is a native Texan and graduate of Baylor University and a longtime LGBT activist in the DFW Metroplex. She has served as president of the Dallas Gay and Lesbian Alliance for more than a decade and as co-host of Lambda Weekly on KNON 89.3 FM since 2000. She has served on numerous boards, including the Human Rights Campaign, Equality Texas, Stonewall Democrats of Dallas, and Democracy for America. She is also a past chair of the HRC DFW National Coming Out Project. Convenient. In 2015, she was Grand Marshal of the Allen Ross Freedom Parade in Dallas. So, let's welcome Nino. You're next. Go ahead.
Well, hi. Thanks for having me. I had a little bit of feedback. There we go. I had a little technical difficulty earlier, but I'm glad to be back. Thanks so much for having me, and thank you, Karen, for that introduction. I'm excited to be with you all today. So as Karen said, I used to work as the director of the LGBT Center at Tufts University, and it was a really interesting experience for a lot of different reasons. But one thing that kind of annually happened or kind of came up around our National Coming Out Day on October 11th was that students had really different perspectives on National Coming Out Day as a political project. And I learned a lot from those conversations, and I learned a lot from students. So I'm just going to share a few reflections here, and then maybe if people have questions, I'm happy to answer them. But before I jump into that, I was thinking about, so I don't know about you all, but I've been in, as I've been in quarantine, I've been going back and watching a bunch of old shows on Netflix and Hulu and pretty much everywhere, and I'm almost out of shows to watch. So I've been going back to the classics, and I've been rewatching The L Word, which some of you may know, a lesbian classic, and it still holds it. Not the new one. I actually haven't seen the new one yet. I'm going back and rewatching the old L Word, the original. So after I do that, I'm going to watch the Generation Q, the new series. But there's this episode in, I guess it's probably at the end of the first season or at the beginning of the second season, where all the characters are driving to some big lesbian event somewhere, and there's this new member to their friend group, Jenny, who doesn't really know how she identifies yet, is kind of processing, thinking through her sexuality. I think eventually identifies as bisexual or pansexual. But at the time, she's just kind of a newbie, and all of the other women are kind of shepherding her and mentoring her into the ways of queer life, right? And they're on this journey, on this drive, and they ask everyone asks each other to share their coming out story. And I'm watching it, and as I'm watching, I was really struck by the fact that as every single one of the characters shares her coming out story, what they're sharing is actually a story about their first realization that they were lesbian or queer or gay. They're not sharing stories about, here's the time when I came out to my parents, or here's the time when I, came out at work, or here's the time when I, told my neighbor or my friend, or all those other people who Harvey Milk reminds us are part of that ongoing and perpetual coming out process, right? Because as Karen reminded us, that's a forever thing. Like, we're kind of always asked to come out and to come out again, and we're never really once and for all fully out, right? Because people make all sorts of assumptions about us. They make all sorts of kind of size us up and assume things about us and maybe erase or ignore certain things that are really important to us. And we can't always bring those things out as soon as we meet someone necessarily, although sometimes we can. And so I was so struck by that episode, because as they were all kind of sharing their coming out story, what they were reiterating to this newbie, right, to this new person who was struggling with her identity, was what matters is how and when you give yourself the space to think about who you are, right? And to think about, in a world that doesn't want you to ask those questions, you think about that and you ask those questions and you reflect and you realize to yourself, you realize in that moment for yourself who you are, or if not who you are, who you could be, right? Like what life you could have for yourself, even if you don't want to put a label on it. And so I thought that was a really powerful moment, a powerful reminder of what National Coming Out Day as a project can be. Because when I was at Tufts, one of the things that students really regularly struggled with or didn't like about National Coming Out Day as a project, we used to do like an annual rally, and we would do like a coming out day list, like in the school paper, people would share, would come out as, they put their name in the paper and say, what they identified as. And people did it, and a lot of people really appreciated it and got a lot out of it, but there were always students who felt like, why do I have to come out? Why do I have to label myself for other people to understand who I am? Why do I have to constrict or refine like the possibilities for who I could be as a person based on just a label, just so I could communicate to someone else more easily? Maybe I'm more complicated than that, right? There was also a sense from a lot of students that people didn't feel like everyone could come out in the same way safely, which I know that Karen also alluded to and might want to say more about as well, right? But that coming out, especially when Harvey Milk was, kind of demanding it as what we might call a political imperative, the political imperative to come out, political responsibility to come out, that there is a lot of political weight and power to coming out, but that it's also important to note that some people don't necessarily have the safety that would be required to come out, and that coming out could cause them harm. They could be in a living situation or in a school situation, social situation, parental relationship, familial relationship, where coming out or articulating or naming something about our sexual or our gender identities could result in our harm. And I think over the years since Harvey Milk's kind of like rah, everyone come out, we've had some time to think about what is coming out. And yes, it is politically powerful and important and significant and weighty. And we shouldn't necessarily always expect the most marginalized people in our communities, in our spaces, to do that work for us. That in fact, that if we are, as Karen said, if we are able to do it from some kind of space of safety, that it's kind of, we take that on to kind of do that work of creating a safer and more equitable and more open space for more people to come out. And so one thing I like to do, like when I'm teaching, I try to give people space to feel comfortable articulating something about themselves, but I never want to make them feel like they have to. I think that's really important, because not everyone feels that safety, and not everyone always knows what to call themselves or how they identify or who they are or what they're going to be. And so I think that there's room for both of those things in National Coming Out Day. I can say as a young queer person, when I was in college, going to my first National Coming Out Day rally at Miami University in Southwest Ohio, and seeing like my teachers and seeing these like really cool seniors and all these people come out and be like, yeah, I'm queer, what of it, was super powerful to me and impactful for me, and really gave me a model for, I think, who I could be and how I could articulate who I was. And I think, and also really importantly, it wasn't about necessarily always coming out to straight and cis people. It was about finding other queer people, right? It was about saying, I'm queer and you're queer, and now we're doing this together, whatever that is. And so that's why when I watched that episode of The L Word recently, that's what what stood out to me, that coming out wasn't always about, oh, we have to tell straight people who we are, or I owe it to them, or that it's something that I do to help other people understand who I am. It's more like Coming Out Day as a project for queer people can very often be giving myself the space to understand who I am in a world that tells me not to ask those questions or to be the way that I am, and to find other people who maybe have gone through that and can give me some guidance and some mentorship and some space. In addition to the fact that, yeah, being out and showing how many amazing cool, and also like sometimes normal, not amazing, like boring queer people there are, we're not all amazing, is really important and really kind of has changed the world dramatically, right? I think that's the part that's so powerful, right? When you think about from 1978 or 1988, when the first National Coming Out Day was, 78, right? Thinking about Harvey Milk, 88 National Coming Out Day to today, Coming Out Day has played a really important role in letting people know the diversity of queer experiences that are out there. And so there's no disputing that, but it's also been a way for us to find community and to build community. And that doesn't mean that when you come out, you have to come out as the same, that once you come out that you will always identify with the name that you've come out with, right? We know and we've learned over the decades that, you know, gender and sexuality are amazing, weird, nebulous, fluid things, and that if I come out to you today as X, tomorrow I might identify as something else. Or I might just have a different word that reflects who I am and how I feel about myself in a different context. And those things are all okay. It doesn't mean boxing yourself in. It just means giving yourself the space to reflect and to find other people who can support you. And so I was really grateful to those students for the many conversations that we had over the years about coming out. I was grateful to the L Word for all that it had taught me about queer community and coming out, and other cultural texts that did that for me. And I'll kind of stop there. So thank you for having me today.
Sorry. Sorry, it took me a minute. Nope, not yet. Nope.
Yeah, you're there. I hear you.
Okay. All right. I don't have the red line around my. All right. So there we are. Okay. It took me a minute to unmute. All right, so let's try to bring Patty into this. And Patty has a lot of experience about establishing National Coming Out Day and making it sort of what it has become today. I know if you go on Facebook or Twitter or any kind of social media, that you will see all kinds of coming out posts. I do an annual one that apparently is the treat for all of my family and friends on Facebook. So I had messages yesterday like, when are you posting it? When are you posting it? Yeah, that's how cool I am. All right, so Patty, if we can get you to unmute and join us here, if you're there, that would be tremendous. What do you think?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, there you are. Yes.
Yay.
Yay.
Hi, Nino. Hi, everybody. I wasn't able to join on the Teams for some reason. I don't have a TCU email address, so it wouldn't let me on. But I'm happy to be here, and it's exciting to talk about a topic I'm so passionate about. So thank you for having me. I'll just begin with how the National Coming Out Day project really kicked off in Dallas. As Karen was just saying about the whole Rob Eichberg experience, that's really how it began in Dallas. A lot of people in the community had taken that 2 or 3 day course with Rob Eichberg himself and decided to begin a chapter of National Coming Out Day here in Dallas. And it turned out that we were really the first and the only one for many, many years. And this was in the early 1990s, beginning about 1991, when being out and being queer was very difficult. And as many of you know, Texas has a long history of sort of Bible Belt approaches to people who were different from the majority. So it was a challenge. And but nevertheless, we began with events. Our big goal was to get into the State Fair of Texas. It's a wide open event. It occurs during National Coming Out Day on October 11th, and we aimed for the Sunday afternoon closest to National Coming Out Day. And so we began having those events there, and that just the encounter with the State Fair of Texas was kind of telling of the whole story of our movement for equality. We were oftentimes, basically fighting to get space, fighting to get an opportunity to be there at the fair. But I'll share with you one thing. One year we were at what was called the Marine Corps Square. I don't know if you've been to the State Fair and have know those locations very well on the grounds. But there's an area as you walk in the main front gate off to the left called the Marine Corps Square. That's where we were allowed to have our event. And we weren't allowed to say that it was the Marine Corps Square. Excuse me. So, because at that time, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was in play nationally and in the military, and so could not associate gay people or queer people of any kind with the military. So we had all our posters said, just inside the Perry Gate, across from the DAR house on the grassy area. Basically, a description of where the Marine Corps Square was, because we were not allowed to use the name. And it's been interesting too, the evolution of all of our activities. We began doing a full page, a double truck as it's called, in the Dallas Morning News, with names of people who supported non-discrimination for LGBTQ people. And we got hundreds and eventually thousands of names. And it was such a discussion item when it would come out in the paper. People would go, well, how can you tell who the gay people are? Because it was just a list of names. And we were like, well, it's kind of like real life. How can you tell? Look how many there are, and you can't tell who's gay and who's not. And so it was a real kind of a pivotal piece for discussion. And we eventually expanded that with the Dallas Morning News into a special section. And the first year that we did it, we got the Dallas Morning News, in fact, got a national award under the family category of special sections. So that was really kind of ironic and interesting. But really, what we were really about in getting those names into the newspaper was the conversation on the street corner. Because I don't know if you're aware, but coming out is really about being honest, being open, and maintaining one's personal integrity about who you are. And not coming out means that we're not being honest and we're not being open and raising awareness, and we're essentially staying in the closet for the comfort of everyone around us. And it's a journey, and for many people, they have to weigh those risks and benefits. And our big mantra for National Coming Out Day is one more step. Take that next step, whatever that next step is for you. And so we know that people who are out and out everywhere in their lives are incredibly empowered, and the people around them support them. We were just talking about that. And the Guild Foundation did a study in the 2000 election, big exit poll study, that 5% of the electorate at that time self-identified as LGBT, and it moved a giant move of the needle for all the people who personally knew someone who had come out to them personally. No supposition, no guessing. Somebody had come out to them as LGBT. It changed everything about the way they voted. And so that's an incredibly powerful thing, and we still do it today until we come out to all 7 or 8 billion people in the world. We're still coming out to people all the time, and sometimes it's relevant, and sometimes it's not. But it's about not filtering one's life for other people's comfort. If it's going to make your neighbor uncomfortable that you're gay, is that a price to pay? I don't know. For some people, it might be if they're in a dangerous situation. So they have to weigh risks and benefits. And many of those benefits are just incredible. It's about personal integrity. It's about not thinking about how to make you comfortable, but just to be me, just to live my life. And it certainly enlarges your support network among LGBTQ people and allies who support you. It certainly enhances one's relationships and with everyone in life, and it gives you a lot of peace of mind. And you can take advantage of things that we've worked really hard to get, like marriage, equality, healthcare benefits, and lots of areas where we are currently still discriminated against. We see discrimination in life and health and personal safety and jobs. You can still be fired in the state of Texas if someone thinks you're LGBTQ. If they just think you are, they can fire you, and there's no legal recourse. That's not true in the city of Dallas or the city of Fort Worth and other places isolated in the state, but the state itself allows that to happen, and there's no legal recourse for that. We still experience discrimination in housing and healthcare and insurance and credit, and in all kinds of things, and the quality and the availability of goods and services delivered to us. People worry about whether someone thinks they're LGBT and they have a prejudice against queer people. Are they going to fix their car all the way? There's some of those questions that remain in some people's minds. And of course, if you're not out, then you're not accessing that kind of personal support network either. But what's interesting is that many, many people in this journey do so kind of piecemeal. Many people are out to their family, but not at work, or they're out to their neighbors, but not to their grandmother. And so the Human Rights Campaign did a study a number of years ago, and I think they need to do it again to get better stats today. But it's a very small percentage. It's less than 10% of people who are out everywhere in their lives. And so when you think about that, that means that there is a lot of room. There's a lot of next steps people can take. And so every year on October 11th, that's our encouragement is just think about what that next step might be for you and take it. Think about what it would mean to take it and to enrich your life that way. Maybe come out to your grandmother. And what's interesting is that a lot of people don't take action on anything until the devil of the known becomes worse than the devil of the unknown. And so if they're just sick of it, oftentimes people will come out and sick of hiding who they are, and then they find it's really pretty great. I remember I came out to I grew up overseas, and I went back to my high school reunion the first time, and I came out to them, and all these women that I was at a boarding school, and all these women looked at me and said, "Tell us something we didn't know." And they're like, I didn't know at the time. I didn't know in high school that I was gay, and yet I did. I knew it was, but I didn't come out to anybody. So it can be very it can be very empowering to come out. There's also a lot of risk. People, one of the reasons, we have 3,300 kids in Dallas ISD who are homeless, and about 45% of them self-identify as LGBT. And they're from areas all over East Texas and all around because they've been kicked out of their homes because they came out to their parents or their parents found out in some way. And so they lost their home, they lost their shelter, they lost means of clothing, for eating, all of the things that are basic support for kids. And they came to Dallas because it was a big city. And they're going to school. And so through the city of Dallas, the community has really stepped up to try to bring resources through the city and also through the district to bring resources to those kids so that they can stay in school, graduate, and move on with life, and with or without their parents, however they may react. So it's a journey that people take, and it's one step at a time, and we just encourage everybody to take that step, however it may be. I remember a really poignant moment on we used to call it work in the street corner. We would have a tent set up at the corner of Throckmorton and Cedar Springs in Dallas, which is right in the heart of the entertainment district for our community. And I remember one year we asked people walking by, would you like to sign up and put your name in the paper? Excuse me, in support of non-discrimination for our community. And I remember this young man came up with his mother. He was down there shopping, and he was 1 week away from being 18. And we would allow minors to be in. Everybody had to fill out a form and sign it. We would allow minors to be in if they had parental permission to be in the ad. And he turned to this mother and said, would you sign it? She said, oh, absolutely, absolutely. And, we were saying, if you'd like to, wait until after you turn 18 and you could do it without her permission, that would be fine too. And he says, no, I think it's really important to do this now. And we almost, lost it. We were crying because it was really kind of a beautiful moment. He had an opportunity to not do that and not, seek his mom's permission. He appreciated her support, and she was crying as well because it was such a moving moment that he wanted to stand up and be heard. And so that was a great experience. And we would have teachers from all over who would come by, and they say, oh, I can't. If I put my name in the paper, I get fired. And that was a real reality in those days. And and then you'd see them come back a number of years later and say, I'm going to put my name in the paper now. I'm going to put my name in there, and if they fire me, so what? This is who I am. And it was just an amazingly powerful thing. And what's interesting too, one of those evolution moments, we had gone to the Dallas Morning News and sat and talked with them about the reams of paper that we were having to submit to show proof that individuals were who they say they were, and that they gave their permission to put their name in, and all of this. And we had to carry boxes and boxes and boxes for the thousands of people who were in the ad. And I said, we're not going to do that anymore. There is no other group that gets a signature ad in the Dallas Morning News that you require this of, and we're not going to do it anymore. And the guy says, oh, well, we'll have to run it by legal. And I said, well, you tell them it's not an option. And he came back and he said, okay, you don't have to do that anymore. We just do one affidavit for the whole entire ad. Everyone in this ad is who they say they are. And while we were sitting there, I don't know if you're familiar with a comedian and a comic writer, actually, David Sedaris. He was coming into town in a few months, and the sales guy who was handling our account at the Dallas Morning News asked my male co-chair if he could get tickets for him to see David Sedaris. And my friend Dave was like, no. And he had worked on the entire assumption that all gay people know each other, and that somehow, Dave could get him these tickets. And so we had a little educational moment in that time. So it's been an interesting stretch, and we've had a lot of great events at the fair. In fact, one of the last ones we had was the year of it was a month after 9/11, in fact, and it was packed. There were thousands of people showed up. The vendors were all ready for us. They had rainbow everything, and it was really pretty exciting. And we still have what we call Gay Day at the State Fair every year. Of course, this year was not. There was no state fair except a drive-through experience. I think you can still tap, but that's all because of COVID. But at the same time, people are coming out every single day, and you don't have to do it on National Coming Out Day, but a lot of people choose that day to have that conversation. So I think it's a very empowering thing, and it certainly changed my life when I came out. And when we talk about when did you come out, a lot of people will say that it's the or assume that you're asking about when they came out to someone else. And I think Nina was talking about too about when you come out to yourself. So we're picking a moment in time, that is really just a continuum, because we come out to people all the time. You know, I came out to someone yesterday I hadn't encountered, and sometimes it comes up in conversation, sometimes it doesn't. But if you don't hide who you are, then you're not really as cognizant of when you've told somebody that you're gay or not, or LGBTQ plus. So anyway, that's where I'll leave it. I know we're running low on time here. So back to you, Karen.
Thanks. I don't know, the red box isn't there. Can you still hear me? I think. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, what I was gonna suggest is, I don't know, Nino, do you have a fun coming out story that you want to share?
Oh gosh. So I'll give one that's not a non-traditional one, which is that just to Patty's point about coming out continually or as a continual process. So I have a partner who some people say I kind of look like. I don't think I look like him at all. But we have the same glasses. I'm not wearing them today, but you can see it in the picture. And so we go out, when we go out together, if we're both wearing our glasses, I can't tell you how many people will just say, "Are you guys twins? Are you guys twins?" And so we play this like game, like we call it Brothers or Lovers, and where we have to like remind people constantly that we're actually not brothers. And there's actually a long history of, it's funny to us in a sense, but also there's a long history, I think, in gay and lesbian spaces in particular, of straight people accidentally, or maybe sometimes intentionally, positioning people as siblings when they see them, or kind of like suggesting that they could be siblings. And so I'll often just kind of, like, depending on the mood that I'm in, it kind of determines how I'll respond, but I'll often just say, "No, the other thing," or sometimes I'll say, "No, lovers," or "No, whatever else," or sometimes just like a grab of the hand or a peck on the cheek kind of shocks them out of it. But it's humorous in a sense, but also not, right? Because part of what we fight when we're coming out is this heteronormative assumption that people are straight and cisgender until proven otherwise. And so I think it's really, to me, that's the important lesson there, that it's not necessarily always just about me, but that, like, when I go out into the world, I try not to make those assumptions about people, like that I think I know that they're, gay or straight, cis or trans, men, women, or non-binary, that I should try to like make more space in my head for any possibility and not presume to know. So that's one of my ongoing fun little coming out stories.
Okay, well, I'll share mine because, well, in my experience, everything has become a comedy routine. That is simply how I deal with life. So I can do like a tight 5 minutes about coming out. I can, whatever. I can reduce it to that, and the God's honest truth is that I am your stereotypical kind of socially awkward academic professor or whatever, and I have to think about things before I feel them, basically, and I moved to Texas, and I started hanging out with this woman, and I thought she was the bee's knees, and that we were the very best of friends, and we went everywhere together and had dinner every night, and went on road trips together, and stayed up and watched the moon rise above the bay and things like that are just like, any idiot should be able to figure out that, hey, maybe, and I didn't. I didn't. I just thought we were the best of friends, and we were spending all of this time together, and she, dropped a bunch of hints on me, and then at some point she was like, "All right, you're stupid. Let me just tell you." And she did. She straight up told me, she's like, "Look, here's the thing. I'm in love with you. I think that you're probably in love with me too, but I want you to go home and I want you to think about it." And I went home and I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? She's right. And it was the first time that I ever even considered it. And yeah, so this story I always tell is that, you know, I basically was dating her for a year before I realized it, and I only realized it then because she told me. And and that's, you know, how I came out to myself. How I came out to my mother was fast forward, and same person broke up with me on my birthday, and my mother would call me every day, every year on my birthday, and sing happy birthday, which I thought was annoying then, but I miss it now. Um, and she called me on my birthday, and I answered the phone, and she started singing, and I just burst into tears, and she was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I told her, you know, in sobs that you know, Maria broke up with me, and that I was that she doesn't love me anymore. And my mom was just like, she handled it like a pro, like, you know, because she already knew. I just hadn't told her. And you know, yeah, but it is a constant process. And Patty's right that if you live openly and you don't even think about it, you know, I wear a lot of I don't want to say paraphernalia, but kind of, like, I wear hats. I don't know if you could tell, but I wear hats a lot. I have all kinds of HRC hats with equal signs on it, or I have, you know, rainbow stuff on it and all of that. I have shirts. I have, you know, all kinds of things. Today, now, I have face masks that have that kind of things on it. And so that, you know, I just wear them, and it doesn't really even like register that I'm actively coming out every time I do. So um, there's that. All right. How are we with time, timekeeper? Okay. Any questions that we have? Have we gotten any questions? We haven't gotten any questions. All right. Well, Patty,
could I just add something here?
Yeah.
Thanks, Karen. I just wanted to note that, you know, in this entire idea of coming out, the legal situation that a person is in, and the societal situation that a person is in plays such a huge role. If I'm a professional and I'm in a small town, and I would be run out on a rail and lose my professional license if someone found out I was gay, because the hostility is that strong, and I have no legal recourse, I'm less likely to come out than somebody who might live in a big urban environment where there are lots of queer visibility. You know, there's no chance of there are ordinances or laws in place that protect me on my job. There are lots of factors that influence whether a person comes out or not. And so we're very careful not to judge a person who has not yet come out. We hope that everybody would be able to thread that needle to coming out and being, you know, living openly. But it's not only the case, and everything is intertwined in that. All of our entire situation is a big influence on that. So I just want to make that point. They're not little silos.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And certainly, you know, National Coming Out Day is sometimes it's just coming out to yourself, and to make sure that you're safe at all times. Whenever you are sharing that kind of information with anyone, you should make sure that you feel safe and secure, that you don't ever feel like it is going to cost you physically or in any other kind of way with your job or what have you. So then I guess we're wrapping up then, and I want to thank everyone who came today and who helped us celebrate this. We hope to make this an annual thing, and so we'll hopefully see you again on October 11th, 2021. All right. So thank you, and goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Patty.
Thank you all. It was great. Great to hear from you.